Greetings, everybody. My name is Tommy the Game Master, and it's Valentine's Day, so welcome to another Galgun review. Several years ago, I reviewed Galgun Double Piece and loved it. It was perverted as hell, but knew how to use its cringe to be an entertaining game. It knew for the most part the boundary between cute, perverted, and funny, and being absolutely creepy, and that's what I loved about it. And at its heart, it was an arcade on rails shooter, replacing zombies and terrorists with cute anime girls trying to chase you around to give you love letters. And I loved it, faults and all. However, Galgun 2 came along a few years later and got rid of a lot of the things I liked about the original. Don't get me wrong, still way more fun than a Sword Art Online game, but it was a much slower pace, and the fan service was more cringe than fun. It's remarkable how small story tweaks can change the nature of the story. In 2, no longer was it a screw up by a Cupid angel that gave you a day to find a love interest. No, instead, you were drafted on a job approved by the angels that made you, as a high school male, wear goggles that made all the girls horny for you, and no longer was it a matter of finding love or live a life of complete isolation on the table. Instead, buy condoms for the lucky lad and use those VR goggles to make out with pretty much every girl in the school, regardless if you treated the two girls you were after in the dating sim like jerks or not. Yeah, Galgun 2 wasn't nearly as fun. So I was glad to see the next game that was coming out in the series was literally returning to its roots. A remake of the first game of the series that released on the Xbox 360 over a decade ago. That one was Japan only, but now we have it in the States. So how is Galgun Returns? Well, I won't lie, Double Piece is, well, twice as good as this, but man, is it better than Galgun 2, and it's a return to why I love the series in the first place. But at the same time, there are things about this that Double Piece just does way better when it comes to the gameplay. Let's get into it. Okay, throughout the review, I will be giving Double Piece the edge as being the better game. Story, though, the original does have Double Piece beat. Even though they're similar stories, some of the small changes do matter. Anyways, the game starts with Bataku, a senior student in Cupid School. Her brand of angels are meant to help human beings find love and happiness with another person. Her assignment is Tezuko, a second year high school student. However, her gun malfunctions and shoots him with 16 love arrows. Arrows that are supposed to boost his popularity with the ladies and help him find a date in a short amount of time. That said, 16 makes him super popular, and now every girl in school wants a piece of him. Now, before you compliment the lucky lad on what could be the best day of his life, there's a big catch. The overdose of love arrows is going to blow all the chances he had of ever finding love, meaning he has to end the day by finding a girl he will spend the rest of his life with, or the only female romantic companionship he will ever get will be from Miss Lefty, if you get my drift. So after some personality questions Bataku asks you to determine your stats in the dating sim portion, Bataku matches you with 4 potential candidates. Karaku, the richest girl in town, Akira, the tomboy, Aoi here, the musical girl whose manic energy and strange hairdo hides the fact that she's actually probably the sanest and safest of the 4 choices. Because the others may look normal on the surface, but trust me when I say they're all cray-cray. And finally, Kanami, the young shrine maiden with the ability to see spirits, and is also a childhood friend of the main character. Only problem is, regardless of which of the 4 you choose, none of them will be affected by the love arrows. Meaning Tezuko will have to win them the old-fashioned way, talking to them, getting to know them, and helping them out and proving themselves through tasks they give out. And trust me when I say some of these tasks are insane, like swimming in the pool while deflecting bowling balls being thrown at you. Of course, if you go through the story and do things right, usually acting like a gentleman, you will find out the reason why the love arrows don't work, because the girls here were already in love with Tezuko because he saved them in the past. They were just waiting for the right time to show their emotions. I love the fact that the game story is so simple. No VRware, no war between a demon high school and a heaven high school. None of these. The women are hiding anything like they're an angel or demon. They are just being themselves, and our hero is discovering some other side to them as he tries to show them who he really is. So it makes things like the fact that one of them wants to shoot bowling balls at him, or another one accidentally summons a demon, a lot more humorous. And there are other parts of the game I also find a bit more humorous, like the fact that the girls in the game are willing to jump down buildings in order to ambush the player with love notes. I find that strangely both hilarious and absolutely terrifying. As far as the parts that you have to woo the girls go, they're very similar to Double Peace, but where Double Peace just have the options blocked out if your stats didn't cover them, here it's a little bit more random. The options change depending on the stats. Have a high intelligence stats, and then when the heroine asks what book you're reading, it will be something like I like light reading or something fun. Low intelligence in that same choice will be something like I like coloring books. So stats are important as ever in trying to treat the girls properly and make sure that they like what you're telling them. That said, if you're after a bad ending, you can still treat them like a jerk and a pervert. If you want to run the game like that, and you can get some pretty funny responses. With that said, guys, if a woman is ever really terrified about your well being and you're worried about being stuck in that dreaded friend zone, absolutely crack a cum joke during that particular moment when she literally looks like she's scared to death about you. I can guarantee you will move right out of that friend zone into the you're lucky if she's ever going to speak to you again, followed shortly by the restraining order zone. With that said, unlike Galgun 2, where you can be a jerk as long as you completed the girl's side quest before the end of the game, you would still get that girl. Here, act like a jerk, and again, you're going to be dating Miss Lefty by the end of the game because the girl will reject you pretty hard. And yeah, I'll admit, Batako's reactions here could be pretty funny, often stating that it was more important keeping herself out of trouble and doing well on her tests than the fact that she just doomed this guy to a life of a lonely outcast. Overall, I enjoyed the game's goofy story for the most part. The only bad thing I can get on negative with the game story is the way the stats are done in the story mode. In Double Peace, you had to pick kind of a cast to determine your stats. You were an athlete, a bookworm, you were into style, or you were a hentai fiend, and that was one if you wanted the hard mode. Unless you unlocked a hidden one with really great stats, you had to deal with one strength and work with the other ones through either using Doki Doki mode or by spending money on things that will help enhance that stat in the store. Here, there is no store. Want to increase the stat, you've got to pick a girl and do Doki Doki and hope she increases and not decreases. And if you make a mistake, there is no in-game shop to help you buff up that personality stat you need to go get that girl. Now, don't get me wrong, the lewdness one is easy to keep at the right pace usually, but if you're going with Kanama, you definitely want intelligence, and you might get hurt by choosing a jock and lowering that stat, and that can make the dating sims a bit more stressful than they need to be to get that 100% ending, because you can't make up any mistakes in between stages using the cash you earned, because the cash in the store doesn't exist yet in this one. Double Peace definitely added a lot of improvements to the gameplay over the original. The gameplay is almost identical to Galgun Double Piece. The only difference here really is the Doki Doki mode. For the most part, doesn't quite have as many options as how you chase down and increase those stats. Another change is just the amount of modes and routes you can choose from. Just those 4 campaigns, and that is it. No angel or demon campaign to unlock, or any of the other co-eds that you can unlock and start a relationship with. Beyond the mere story points and some of those other ones just mentioned, it's pretty much the same. Girls come at you and you find their weak spot and you shoot them before they can either give you love letters or shout words of interest that will drain your willpower so much that they can kidnap you and run off with you. Again, something that Galgun Returns does better is explain why you're in such a danger when one of these girls kidnaps you, because when the love arrows wear off at the end of the day, you're stuck with whoever you're with, and if they don't love you, then you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. So having our hero get stuck with these other girls chasing him will lead to a bad end eventually. Not only for the future of your hero, but as far as the game goes too, you don't want to have one of these ladies kidnap you, because dying can send you several stages back. Yeah, that's another change that I think Double Piece made for the best, especially since it was made for a portable device like the Vita. Save states are common. Here you can go through an entire arc, a whole 3 stages before the game really lets you properly save. Granted, that's still only about 15 minutes, but you have to restart for whatever reason. It is a pain. If you run low on health or have many girls chasing you, then you can use a Doki Doki bomb, which has you play this get to second base with a girl, get a meter to fill up, and boom, the Doki Doki bomb goes off, refilling your health and getting rid of all the girls chasing you for a moment, as well as changing your stats to reflect the girl you just Doki Doki. Do it with an athletic girl, your athletic skills go up, but if you do it with a bookworm, then your intelligence goes up, and you get the idea. Again, Double Piece had the feature that you had to go to a shop to counter any mistakes you may have made doing the Doki Doki. Not so much here, so it's actually kind of dangerous to use it if you're going after a perfect ending. The changes I talked about is now you're only allowed to do one girl with the Doki Doki mode, while Double Piece lets you do it with a group of girls to really double those stats increases. But that's, like I said, the only real big change to the game as far as the Doki Doki mode goes. Each campaign through the game is about an hour and a half long, but that's fine. I like that it's short. It's perfect. I only have a short amount of time and want to play through a short, simple, funny, and pervy game. An hour and a half is plenty. It's better to be short and sweet with the ability to pick up and play than overstay its welcome. I'm looking at you, Galgun 2. Now, there is also a second mode that does unlock after you get one of the best endings with the girl. This one's a bit stupid. Not as stupid as Galgun 2, but plenty stupid. There are some funny conversations that did get me to chuckle, but the overall gameplay and the story is a bit stupid. Pataku comes back after a few months being dragged by her lower classmate Ekiro. They're both worried that Pataku didn't stay with you after the events of the main storyline were all done, and she's now actually stuck with you as long as you're alive to make sure you stay out of trouble because of the things she did. If the relationship ends with whatever girl you won, you will be back to being alone your whole life. And yeah, the story does a good job to show what every one of the girls chasing after you in the main game now thinks of you. They pretty much hate you or find you creepy. To fix that, they want you to Doki Doki the entire school until you get back to where you were before Pataku shot the arrows. So yeah, the whole mode is basically you trying to get to second base with each one of the girls in the school and doing it multiple times. The only hard part is keeping track of the girls' meters, as sometimes the games require you to switch between girls as well as to get a high score. Making the girl swoon simultaneously is also something you've got to do. Again, I don't play the game for the Doki Doki mode. I think it's okay, but it wasn't as fun as just running around the school in the main game. I did like Ikuro's introduction, and there are parts of the story where you find out Ekuru likes to use guns that are too big for her frame. And on top of that, Potaku is going to have to be stuck with you for a little while longer. All of this does is help explain and set up the events that happen in Galgun Double Piece, but still, the mode as it is just plain ludicrous. Yeah, I'm sorry, honey, but you see, these two invisible angels told me if I felt up every girl in the school, I wouldn't have to be unpopular anymore and our relationship would be more stable. Oof! I'll go get into the pool. The graphics in this game are okay. They're not bad at all. They get the job done, but at the same time, they do show that the original one was a decade old. They're bright, they're cheery, just like every other Galgun game, but at the same time, the environment and the character models are a step back from what we saw with the Unreal 4 engine in Galgun 2. But with that said, the character models and the stage design still look good and they still hold up relatively fine for what this game needs. So what are my complaints? Well, I have two big ones. One, that this game can't help, but I say if you do make a fourth one, Inticreates, you gotta do something about the environments. Yes, I know it's a remake of the first game, so when there was nothing new here, just going through the same school settings like school, gym, outside settings, it got a little boring going through settings I've seen so many times in its sequel. If you make a fourth one, you're going to have to do a soft reboot, move to a different school or something, because I'm feeling like this is a hyperdimensional Neptunia game here with the repeat in the designs. On top of that, there's also some jankiness in the frame rate. The run cycles for the characters when they are at a distance doesn't quite look right. It's not terrible, but it is distracting. Take a look at this scene where the teacher's chasing me, for example. It just doesn't look very smooth. Still, for what it is, it does get the job done. Bright, cheerful, funny atmosphere for the shenanigans that are happening in the game, but at the same time, it could be better. When it comes to the sound, again, we have a very similar soundtrack as the other two released Galgun games. The music is not bad and it works for the game, and I never consider it too repetitive. The vocals are again all in Japanese, and while I would love a dub due to the nature of this game, I can understand why it's subtitles only. As far as my recommendation goes, God of PlayStation, too bad. Sony's kind of gone woke and pretty much wants people to forget it's actually a Japanese company and is censoring in ways that even Nintendo in the 80s would have said, lighten up. God of Switch, this is the best version of Galgun. But if you're on Steam, get Double Piece. Even with all its bugs on the PC version that you have to work around, it's still the better game. They're both very similar, but what makes Double Piece the better game is just simply the ability to make some money and spend it on a shop to power up your character and improve your stats to stand a better chance at getting the gal you're after in the main story mode and choosing the right answers. Galgun Returns does have a better story in the case that it's more down to earth. None of them are demon hunters or anything crazy like that. You just start to notice that each one of them is a bit crazy as you pursue them, but that is one of the parts I like. You get to know the good and the bad of these girls. But no store, no power ups, and the frame rate makes Double Peace the better game in my opinion.